Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of FPL Fanzone. We have now reached the final game week of the season, the last round. It is now everyone is either chasing or protecting their rank, depending on where they are in their mini leagues, fighting for their bragging rights to make sure they don't come last. So we're going to cover a lot today. We're going to look at options for both chasing and protecting your rank, depending on where you're at. We're going to look at captain's choices. We're going to look at assistant managers. For those that have chips, we're also going to look at the free hit as well. And then we're going to take a quick look at my team, where we have how I've gone throughout the season, and then of course my potential transfers leading into the final game week. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and also don't forget to join the FPL Fanzone League. It's free to join. There is a Premier League shirt of your choice for the winner. Currently that is Brandon, who has taken a big lead in the last week. It's been really tight between him and Mika over the last couple of weeks. I wasn't sure. At one point they were both on exactly the same points about 2 weeks ago, so it's really close at the top there, and obviously look forward to seeing how that finishes out in the FPL Fanzone League. So don't forget to join. The code is on the screen. I'll drop a link in the comments below as well. So if you're new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There's some exciting stuff happening in the off season for FPL Fanzone, and I'll talk a little bit more of that in a later video. But also hit like and leave any comments for questions you have, and I'll get back to you before the deadline. But without further ado, let's get started. So here we are on the last round, game week 38, and there's a lot of grey fixtures this week. There's a lot of teams that have huge, not amount of a lot to play for. I guess the one that's a little bit interesting is, of course, the Chelsea fixture, because they have the Conference League final after game week 38, so they've still got a European final to play for. But even if they win that, that would only qualify them for the Europa League, whereas they're still fighting to get that final Champions League place. So it's an interesting one to know whether they're going to put out a full strength team. You know, it's a tough fixture against Nottingham Forest, who are also fighting for that Champions League spot as well. One of 5 teams now looking for those last 3 spots. So interesting just to see if there's any team news before on the Chelsea game, if you're looking at any Chelsea assets coming on as well. Outside of that, Arsenal have already wrapped up their Champions League spot. They still haven't officially secured second place yet. I think Man City can still overtake them. But they've got Southampton away, which is a nice fixture. Bournemouth have nothing to play for, but have Leicester at home. Vardy will not be playing this week. He played his last game last week and will no longer play for Leicester. So they're a little bit weaker up front. So I think Bournemouth, if you're looking to attack, is a good fixture there. But again, neither of those teams have anything to play for. Ipswich and West Ham are similar. You know, both teams at the bottom half of the table. Ipswich are already relegated. West Ham have nothing to play for. But Bowen, for example, has been in really good form recently, so could be a good option for a captain this week. And then outside of that, we're going to have a quick look at the teams that are fighting for Europe versus those that are already on the beach, so that we can start to identify which teams we want to target for this week. So the race for Europe, these are teams that still have something to play for. Now, of course, the top 5 teams there, Newcastle, Man City, Chelsea, Aston Villa and Forest, are all fighting for Champions League spot. 3 of those teams will get it. The other 2 teams will drop into the Europa League. Now, there is also a scenario where 8th place will get the Conference League after Crystal Palace won in the FA Cup. And that would happen if Newcastle, who are also qualified for the Conference League, reach a Champions League spot. Therefore, that space will be passed down to either Brentford or Brighton. So those 2 still have something to play. And then, of course, we've still got Chelsea, who, if they win the Conference League, would go into the Europa League, which they could qualify for anyway if they don't finish in the top 5. But if they win a Champions League space, that it just gets a little bit messy. But just to let you know, these are the teams that are still fighting for either Champions League, Europa League or Conference League spots. So just ones to keep out, there's stuff to play for. This, of course, means that everybody else is officially on the beach and have very little to play for. A couple of standouts here. Obviously, Crystal Palace have won the FA Cup. They are playing Liverpool, who have nothing left to play for. We've got Tottenham, who have just won the Europa League and have now qualified for the Champions League, despite being 17th in the Premier League. All of these teams, obviously Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton, have already been relegated. Everyone else can't qualify for Europe, so there's nothing else to play for. Arsenal, as I said, need to still secure that second place, but realistically they're still going to be playing in Champions League either way, so they may have a slightly weakened team given that they're playing Southampton in the final game of the season. So just, again, things to consider when you're looking at your transfers for that last final week. So next up, we are going to have a quick look at the chase or protect. So we're going to look at transfer targets for game week 38. The green side are going to be for those that are chasing rank, looking for that big green arrow, trying to jump ahead of their friends in their mini leagues. Those that are protecting are those that are winning their mini leagues or got a really good rank, for what they were aiming for this season, and just don't want to fall too far behind. And how we're going to rank these, and what I'm going to do for my rankings in this week, is look at form versus effective ownership. So you obviously want to, in order to rise in the rank, you want players that other players don't have that are going to score goals and score you points. If you're trying to protect rank, obviously you want to make sure that you're covering for all of those big name players, people like Salah, people like Watkins, that have high ownership and are also could potentially massively ruin your rank if you don't own them as well. So we're going to be looking at form and effective ownership as a way to decide whether they're good for chasing or good to protect. But remember, the one thing more important than anything else is you want the most points available. So you want to be picking players that are going to get you the most points in this particular game week. That doesn't change whichever situation that you're in. And that's something just to consider as we go through this and look at some of the targets in the next couple of slides. First up, we have defenders. Now, for a lot of people, they would have already had Saliba in their team, for example. He had, I think, over 26% ownership, but it went off injured in the last game, which was a shame because obviously they got the clean sheet and Saliba came off early. So are we looking to replace our defenders this week? If you've got another defender on your bench, the average points for defenders are not massive, but then saying that, someone like Konsa, who got 15 points last week, made a huge rank rise for me in that. Dan Burn has had 2 double-digit hauls in the last 4 weeks. So those are players that are under sort of around that sort of 10% owned that could massively jump your rank if they hit again. You've also got their Matty Cash as well. So there's just a good option there for cheap defenders if you are looking to replace Saliba. But again, defense isn't necessarily going to protect your rank massively. For those that are high ownership, and you're going to be looking at people like Vardial, who's 38% owned, Virgil van Dijk, 25% owned. You've got Kirkes, who is in terrible form at the moment, but is 18% owned and has a really good fixture. And then also you have Munoz, again, very highly owned at over 20%, but a difficult fixture as well. So if you're trying to protect, you really want to having someone like Gvardiol in your team if you're trying to protect your rank. Obviously, they're fighting for that Champions League spot, so they need to put out a full-strength team. He is one of the top scoring defenders in the game, so you certainly want to be having him in your team. So that's just a couple of options there for you to look at if you're looking at defenders. Personally, I just don't think there's a huge amount of opportunity there to get massive rises. Defenders getting points, clean sheets as well on the last day of the season are traditionally a lot lower than any other game week. So those extra points are unlikely to happen. There are more goals scored on the final game week than in any other game week in the season historically. So defenders, clean sheets are obviously the main point, and so unless you're going to get an attacking return, there's not a huge amount of upside. for me, midfielders are where the points are at. They get the extra point for the goal. They get the extra point for the clean sheet. They're obviously involved a lot more in terms of free kicks or corners or opportunities to create those assists. You often get penalty takers from midfielders as well. So that upside in terms of chasing points is definitely there. And if you look at some of the in-form players at the moment, you've got Eze, you've got Sharda from Brentford, you've got Jared Bowen who's got Ipswich away this week, so a great fixture, and only 15% owned. You've got Morgan Gibbs-White. Again, both of those teams are really fighting for a Champions League spot, but he's on great form at the moment. On the other side of the table, you've got those stalwarts that have been in everyone's team all season long, the likes of Salah, whose form has really dropped off since he signed his new contract. You've got Umbremo, who's okay form at 4.5, but he's 46% owned. You've got Cole Palmer at 35% owned. Surprisingly, Saka is only down at 18% owned. Now, he was injured for a while and hasn't really played a full 90 minutes since he's come back, and Arsenal's form has been a bit all over the place. But that fixture against Southampton away looks like a great way for Arsenal to end the season. They typically go out with a bit of a bang despite having nothing left to play for. So it could be a good option there to have someone like Saka, who is renowned for scoring good points and has a great fixture as well. So again, for me, I'd be looking more on the chasing the rank side, looking at someone like a Sharda, looking at I already have Bowen in my team. Eze's an interesting one. Obviously, he's started to find a bit of form, but he's got such a tough fixture on that as well. So could be a good differential for this week. Lastly, let's have a quick look then at the forwards. And again, if you're looking to chase rank, you've got people like Rissa, who got 10 points last week. Got Wolves away. I feel like there's always goals in that type of scenario. Wolves do score, but they also concede as well. You've got Cody Gakpo, who's a bit of a surprise one here. 5.0 form, 5.2% owned. Is a great opportunity there. Watkins actually is... He sits in both sides because he's 26% owned, but he's the best, second best in form for attackers for this week at 5.3. He's got a good fixture against Man United away, who have nothing to play for, who have obviously just had that defeat in the Europa League final as well. And then you've got outside shots like, for example, Evan Nilsson or Raul Jimenez from Fulham, whose form is 5.2, so similar to Watkins, but is only 4.9% owned. So if he goes and gets a goal, and you know, they upset and beat Man City on the last game to deny them getting into the Champions League, that would be a massive rank rise for you guys as well. And then on the other side, if you're looking to protect your rank, as I said, a lot of people will have Haaland now that he's back from injury. His form is appalling at 1.3. Obviously, that does take into consideration that he didn't play for a couple of games, but he's still 23% owned. The other high ownerships are Isak, who is yellow flagged. He didn't play last week against Arsenal, but my gut feel there is that he will be back for the last game week. They do still need to get that European Champions League spot. So at 53% owned, if you're looking to protect your rank, he's certainly someone that you need to have in your teams. Now, I haven't gone through all of the players in these options as well, so let me know in the comments below if you've got any questions, any players that you're looking at, anyone that you think would be differentials, or people that we need to consider to protect rank as well. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll come back to you with any insights that I have on that piece. Next up, let's have a look at who to captain for game week 38. If you've got this far into the video, don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe if you're new around here, and hit that notification bell if you want updates in the off season as videos come out around next season's fixtures. So this week I have split the captain's choices into midfielders or attackers, and I have ranked them from the left, which is the safest, through to the right, which is the most upside potential on that as well. So let's start with those midfielders. Salah, 66% owned. If you're looking to protect rank, if he goes and it's his last game of the season, they're going to be presented with the trophy. There's a lot of story there for Salah to go out and have a good game. He's still chasing some records in terms of the most goal involvements. It's a home game, so there's just a lot of narrative there as to why he could go out, have a stellar game, score a few goals. His form has not been great, and in the last couple of weeks he's kind of missed chances that normally he would put away. So there's nothing to say there with his underlying stats that he's not going to get points. And if, as I said, if you're looking to protect rank, he could certainly be one that would do huge damage if you don't at least have him in your team, if not at least captain him as well. Then you've got Mbeumo, again in decent form at the moment, 46% owned. The next three, Saka, Bowen and Shada, are all interesting ones. Saka is out of form but has a great fixture and only 18% owned, so is a differential at this point in terms of at least for a captain's choice. But that fixture against Southampton away, again, it's not at the Emirates, so we don't really know. Obviously Southampton have been terrible all season, so there's obviously opportunities there to get Ipswich away for Bowen. Again, a really good fixture. It is an away fixture, but his form has been fantastic and has really helped my rank over the last 3 or 4 weeks that I've owned him. He's only 15% owned. And then also in the same type of form is Shada from Brentford. Wolves away, we talked about there being goals opportunities in there. So they're all away fixtures, which aren't ideal. But if they hit at 3.4% owned, he's going to make a huge rank rise for your team. On that. And then of course the same thing if we look at the strikers. Now Isak is currently yellow flagged. He'd missed the game against Arsenal, but did they just rest him? Eddie Howe said he had a bit of a groin injury. Did they just rest him so that they could make sure that he was there? It's a home game. They're in Newcastle in good form at the moment. Everton have nothing to play for. He's 53.7% owned. Could he come out and score a few goals, get Newcastle into the Champions League? Absolutely. Next up, Watkins. He's playing against a very deflated Manchester United team. They lost the Europa final midweek. They're just not look like they're going to score goals at all. And you've got Aston Villa who are fighting for that final Champions League spot. And they need to win, and then obviously other results to go their way as well. But at 26% owned, he's in decent form. He's against a really weakened side. I think there's great opportunities there. Haaland, just back from injury. We talked about him in one of the other slides there. 23% owned. His form is terrible. But obviously, they're fighting. They're going to put out their best team. He is their best striker, so he will be there. It is an away game as well, so not ideal. But they've got something to really fight for. And could Haaland finish his season how he started it, by getting, one of his multiple hat-tricks that ruined my rank at the start of the season? Absolutely. And then lastly, as a differential, if you want someone like Evan Nilsson, that fixture, Leicester at home, it's a home game. He's in decent form at the moment. He's only 5.3% owned. If you want upside, captaining someone like Evan Nilsson against a promoted side that's just been relegated, I think is a great shout as well. So each of these have their own story, their own narrative, and really for you it's just about how much do you want to risk this last game week. Do you want to protect your rank? Do you want to try and jump one of your friends in your mini league? For me, I would be looking towards someone like a Saka, Bowen or Evan Nilsson. I think in my team, if you're looking to protect, I'd probably go somewhere like Isak, Watkins, or Mbeumo, just because their form is slightly better than Salah's and Haaland's in that case. But let me know in the comments below, who is your captain this week? Next up, the assistant manager. And for those of you that have your chip available for this week, there is a huge amount of table bonus. And again, we'll talk about this from chasing and protecting, depending on where you're sitting. But also having a chip available on the last game week of the season does give you a massive advantage. There are lots of players that haven't used their chips yet, and this is naturally just going to, making the right choice will give you more points on top of your team, especially with this particular chip. So let's have a quick look at some of the options. So I used my assistant manager chip back in was game week 26, the double game that when we had the double doubles with Liverpool. And for me, table bonus was the way to go. It's the way I went. I didn't get massive, but there were players with single game weeks with table, or managers with single game weeks with table bonus that outscored managers that had double game weeks with no table bonus. And so if you're chasing rank, you really want to try and find a table bonus win. The extra 10 points is massive on that as well. Even if it's a draw, it's an extra 5 points on that as well. So for me, if you're looking at the fixtures here, you've got Pereira against Brentford. I think there are goals to be had there. That game is tight, but I do think, obviously, as a table bonus, it's nice there. You've got Crystal Palace, for example, against Liverpool. Liverpool have nothing left to play for. Yes, it's their last game of the season. Yes, they will get presented with the trophy at the end. But Crystal Palace are on a bit of a high after winning their first FA Cup. So I just feel like there's an opportunity there for them to potentially get an upset. Now, if you're looking to protect rank, or if you just want to get some extra points on the board, Arteta against Southampton just feels like it's a safe bet. And the same thing if you look at Iraola against Leicester this week. They just feel like safer bets where you can just bank your 8 to 10 points depending on how many goals they scored or if there's a clean sheet involved. So again, for me, table bonus was always the way to go. It is a little bit harder because it's the last week of the season. So if you're chasing table bonus, probably do it against teams that are playing, for example, Liverpool, who have nothing left to play for, and they're giving you the best chance of actually getting a win. But let me know in the comments below, do you even have this chip still active? I used mine a while ago. Next up, we're going to have a look at a free hit team. Now for me, I've just put together a team that I feel will get the most points this week. And rather than just going for protecting rank or effective ownership, I've really looked at players that I think have good fixtures and are in good run of form and could potentially get points this week. So if you like my free hit team, don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe if you're new around here, and let's see if you've got this chipped active where you would go. So the first thing you'll notice about my game week 38 free hit team is that there's no Haaland and there's no Salah. And by having neither of those two, you have a huge amount of budget available. This team itself only costs 95.4 million. So there's plenty of opportunities to, if you've got more money in the bank, to upgrade where you feel necessary. But in goal, I have Raya. In defence, I have White, Gvardiol and Konsa. All of them have either a good fixture or are really fighting for a European place against good weaker teams in the league. In midfield, I've gone really for form and a little bit of, I guess, differential. You would say Bowen, Umbremo, Semenyo, especially Bowen, Semenyo and Martinelli have really good fixtures. Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton, so they're all fighting against the relegated teams. Bowen, Umbremo, has just been in good form at the moment, and we've talked a little bit about that Wolves fixture. There potentially being a lot of goals either way. Umbremo is on penalties as well, so I think there's an opportunity there. And then up front, I do think Isak will be coming back and playing against Everton, so I have him there in the team. And then also I've got Watkins and Evan Nilsson. We talked about Watkins playing against a weak Manchester United team at the moment. Evan Nilsson playing against the relegated Leicester. I think there's lots of opportunities there. And then on the bench, I've got Arrizabalaga or Kepa, because it's easier to say, Morgan Rogers, Dan Burn and Wan-Bissaka. Again, just players that have good fixtures, are in decent runs of form at the moment and could come off and get points if needed. So for me, this is what my free hit team would look like. If you looked at the AI models, they do recommend having Salah. They do recommend having Haaland in there as well, and then obviously you'd have to weaken down in some of the other places as well. So for me, this is where I would go, but of course I don't have the chip available, so I have to stick with what I've currently got. So let's have a quick look at what that looks like. Moving on to my team, and a bit of news for the FPL Fanzone channel in general. Over the off season, I'm going to look at building a new website for FPL Fanzone, which is going to allow you to have analytics and track your team and look at players in a different way. So I'm going to be building that out in the off season. But this is an example of what you'll see, for example. So this is my season tracker for this particular season, and in game week 1 I was ranked 608,263rd in the world. I thought, hey, that's a good start, happy to start there, start climbing. Of course I didn't have Haaland in my opening team, and by game week 6 I was down to 5.3 million. So I wildcarded, and then I brought in Haaland, who of course then proceeded to not score, and kept my rank at that rank until I switched out, took a hit, brought in Salah, and my slowly started to climb up the rankings again. Now in game week 37 I'm 670,000th in the world at the moment, so just outside where I was in game week 1. So it's taken me 32 weeks to get back there after losing all of that rank in the first 4 weeks. So what I want to do is obviously build a dashboard that allows you to understand players, look at all of where they get their points from. Is it fixtures? Is it home fixtures? We're going to look at all of the different correlations between points for each individual player as well. So I'm going to start building that out in the off season. So if you're excited about that, feel free to hit that notification bell. There will be more videos upcoming around what that's going to look like in the new season. So game week 37 was another good week for me. 65 points, 127,000 rank rise. And there was some standout performances in there. Obviously, Konsa getting 15 points was huge. Wissa with a double-digit haul. I captained Watkins for 10, who got me 10 points overall. Bowen with 8 points. Saka and De Bruyne, unfortunately, disappointing again, both with threes. And annoyingly, having the Man City clean sheet wiped out in the 89th minute. Let's just say there were some colourful words used in the FPL Fanzone household that morning, because they both looked like they were on for clean sheets, which would have been amazing for my points for this week, but they both got wiped out in the last minute. So overall, team looks like it's in a really solid spot for game week 38. And of course, there's a couple of opportunities there for me to look at. The only other thing to really mention here is that I had Raya on the bench, who got 7 points, and then Henderson only got the 1 point. So that could, of course, put me into over 70 points for the week, which would have been really, really nice. But of course, we make those decisions. Arsenal versus Newcastle certainly felt like a tougher fixture, but we make mistakes every week. But it's still a massive green arrow, so really happy. Let's have a look then at game week 38. So game week 38, I have Raya in goal against Southampton away. I have Ruben Diaz and Gvardiol against Fulham away. I've got Konsa against Manchester United away. In midfield, I've got De Bruyne against Fulham away, Saka against Southampton away, currently with the captain's armband, but that may change. Bowen with Ipswich away, Umbremo with Wolves away, and Rodgers with Manchester United away. So a lot of away fixtures in my team for this week, and obviously only one free transfer, 1 million in the bank. Up front, I've got Watkins with Manchester United away, and then Wissa with Wolves away. And then on the bench, I've got Henderson and Mateta, both with Liverpool away. Konate with Crystal Palace at home, and then Saliba, who is out injured, with Southampton away. So overall, looking at my team, it's pretty strong. I'm quite happy with where it sits going into the last game week. I'd love to beat now. Obviously, when I first looked at this, I wanted to finish in the top 100k like I did last season when I finished 75k in the world. I'm not going to get there now. So I would love to sort of finish above my game week 1 rank, which was 608k. But again, that's still a massive rank rise for me to get that. So I need some of these players to get me some points, especially some of the more differentials in there as well. So let's have a look at what would I do moving into game week 38 with 1 free transfer. Now, one thing I've heard a lot of people ask throughout this last game week is, should they take a -4? And realistically, at this point, it's very difficult for you to be able to make up those 4 points that it's going to cost you. So, of course, there are opportunities, and looking at upside, or maybe if you're bringing someone in that you want to captain, then potentially. But overall, you're not going to be able to make up those 4 points you lost. Normally, when you take a hit, it's because you know you're going to get those points back over a couple of game weeks. So, for me, I won't be looking at a -4. I did consider it, but I just couldn't see any opportunities that I felt would give me massive upside. So I've got 4 options for the final game week. The first one is just to do Philip Mateta to Evan Nilsson. Now, if I do that, it does give me a benching headache. Who do I drop down to the bench? But I do think Evan Nilsson has a great fixture. He's in better form than Mateta. I mean, you could also, if you're really chasing rank, to go to someone like Nketiah, who got 2 goals last week, but they are playing Liverpool. It's just a tougher fixture. So Evan Nilsson feels like a big differential at 5% owned. Great home fixture. So yeah, that's an option for me. But again, it does give me a benching headache. Option 2 is a little bit more just bolstering that midfield. Kevin De Bruyne, I brought him in, was hoping that he would do something in the last couple of weeks for me. Of course, as soon as I brought him in, he stopped performing. Man City are chasing a Champions League spot, and obviously Haaland will be on the pitch, so there is opportunities for him to get points. But there's also a chance for me to chase rank and to bring in someone like Kevin Schade, who's 3.4% owned. Has got a decent fixture in Wolves away, who have nothing to play for. His form is amazing at 8.8. I feel like there could be a real opportunity there to just, rise a couple of places. I'm not in any close to winning any of my mini leagues, so that's not a consideration. But it's just now really chasing that personal rank. And then last one is just, it's a bit of a nothing transfer really. Saliba's already on my bench. Bring in Dan Burn, who is 12% owned, so not really a massive differential. Obviously much bigger than Saliba at 28%. But Everton at home, chasing Champions League. He's got 2 double-digit hauls in the last 4 weeks. So if he does get something, it could be great. But realistically, am I going to drop one of my Man City defenders or Konsa to bring in Dan Burn? Put them on the bench? Probably not. So it's a tough one for me this week. I just don't feel like any of these give me huge amounts of upside, because they all create a bit of a benching headache. The only one that doesn't was Kevin Schade. He would just come in and replace De Bruyne straight into the first team. The last option, of course, is just to do nothing. And sometimes that's the best option. If you can't see something that's going to significantly improve your team. Now, of course, you don't need to roll any more transfers. You don't need to worry about price rises. And of course, waiting until that last minute when there might be some team news, because all of the fixtures are played at the same time on Sunday afternoon or Monday morning here in Australia. So you can try and wait before making any decisions, and I will be doing that. I'll be waiting to see if there's any team leaks or anything that, in case I need to make any last minute changes. There are, of course, rotations in that last game week, so potential for there as well. But right now, it's probably do nothing. Might take a punt on Kevin Schade, but I do think that De Bruyne is a viable option for this week as well. Let me know in the comments below. If you were in my position, would you do any of these transfers, or is there another one that you feel that I should be looking at? At this point of the video, I just want to say a massive thank you. We are 37 weeks into my first season as a YouTube creator. FPL Fanzone has grown from 0 subscribers to over 400, which is amazing. If you've got this far into the video, thank you for following, thank you for listening, thank you for making this an enjoyable season for me. Hit that like button, hit subscribe if you're new around here. Would love to get to 500 by the end of the season. I know it's a big shout now. We've only a couple of hours and a day left until the final deadline. There will be, of course, another one after. We're doing a wrap up of the season. We'll start to look at some of the data on that as well, and then of course there'll be the announcement of the new FPL Fanzone site that will be coming out in the off season, preparing you for 25-26. So thanks again for watching FPL Fanzone, and may all of your arrows be green.